NBC doesn't seem to like its own poll. Not at all. I mean, it was so bad this morning that one of their anchors was like crying on set, like actually nearly crying on set. Somehow this doesn't surprise me. None of it surprises me. She's not that likable a candidate. She's got this uppity thing going on. And by the way, she doesn't really have much in the way of credentials, shall we say, credentials, which are so important. In other words, you look at the last 3.5 years, they've been pretty miserable. You really think that Americans are going to respond well to the likes of Kamala Harris in light of everything? Meanwhile, you remember this lady, right?
He's called me venomous.
We will fight back to your attempt to bring Trumpism to New York City.
He's called me disgraceful.
Of the fact that they stole the Supreme Court seat.
All right, yeah, well, she's living up to all of the things he may have called her, let me just say. Letitia James now trying to inch out Eric Adams as the mayor of New York. She's got Kathy Hochul, the governor of New York, reportedly working with her on this so that she can waltz in and take over New York City. I don't think anybody likes the idea of that, but it's all happening as she prepares for the reversal in the appeals court of the case that she brought against Donald Trump to the tune of $500 million. It's all happening in real time, everyone. Welcome to the program. I am Trish Regan. Make sure you like, subscribe, share, all that good stuff. We're up over 400,000. Just amazing, amazing to see. I want to go straight to the NBC News poll that's causing a lot of discomfort in the hallways of NBC News right about now. We know their bias, of course. We'll take a look at what they got themselves. This is the NBC News poll, which actually, if you account for the third-party candidate, shows that Trump is ahead, 47 to 46. Ooh, they really don't like this. I mean, if there is no third-party candidate, it's actually a dead heat. Kirsten Welker, who does the weekend show, she tried to explain it to everyone there on the network. Just look at their faces, right? Like long faces as they get this information. Here we go.
The big headline, this is a national head-to-head poll, is that Vice President Kamala Harris had a 5-point lead in our last poll taken a month ago, right after the debate. That lead has all but evaporated, Willie. Take a look at this new head-to-head matchup, 48% to 48%. That is what we call a deadlocked race. It underscores what we all know, that this is tight, that the country is sharply divided. One of the other big headlines here, people are viewing the Trump presidency more favorably than the Biden presidency. Why is that significant? We've seen the vice president get pressed repeatedly on what she would do differently than President Biden, and she's really struggled with that answer.
No, she hasn't actually struggled with it. She's literally said she would do absolutely nothing different. That just happened on The View just the other day, right?
If anything, would you have done something differently than President Biden during the past 4 years?
There is not a thing that comes to mind in terms of, and I've been a part of most of the decisions that have had impact.
No, I'm not going to do anything different. I'm going to let you all suffer with your miserable inflation. I'm going to let you suffer with the increase in crime resulting from the some 10 million estimated people that have come across this border illegally. I am going to let you suffer and worry about whether or not we're on the brink of World War III, for goodness sakes. And you wonder why people are now like, you know what? I'll go with the proven entity. I mean, this is not that hard, folks. NBC can't quite seem to get their head around this. They're shocked. They cannot believe nor understand why we'd be looking at a real clear politics map that looks like this, where he's expected to just go in there and sweep that blue wall. We talked about this on Friday. He's going to clean up in the likes of Pennsylvania, in the likes of Michigan. New polling data out of Michigan showing exactly that. And so now NBC is like, oh, I'll tell you, this was actually predicted a couple weeks ago in the prediction markets. I want to go over to Polymarket, which is my favorite prediction market, and as luck would have it, they're also a wonderful sponsor of the Trish Regan show, but that all just kind of miraculously came together because I kept citing them before that because I love this. It also uses some blockchain technology, including Ethereum blockchain, to help actually settle all these trades and stable coins, etc. But I digress. Look at that, 54% to 45.4%. That's what you're seeing in the prediction markets of Polymarket, which, by the way, sorry, if you're looking to make a wager, you can't actually do it if you're in the US, nor in any other country where they don't allow prediction markets for you to trade in them. But I actually like them because guess what? They've been around for a long time. They've only been around twice since 1866. And this is probably the most modern of them. Again, by using that blockchain technology, I think it's probably the most authentic and one of the best. And you're looking at 54 to 45. That's up from the other day. I think when I showed you, it was like 53.4. Donald Trump has been steadily climbing there in the Polymarket prediction site. And this is way ahead of where, for example, the NBC News poll, this one, the three-way race, actually is. You've seen some of the polls like over at Real Clear Politics start to catch up. And I think the internal polling data that you're seeing for Kamala Harris, I mean, they're flipping out over this. You saw this, right? Last week, I told you about this. I'm going to quote again from this article that was by Mike Allen there. Oh, wow. In Axios, quote, top Democrat politicians and operatives tell us the vital states of Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania are getting tougher for Vice President Harris and the party's Senate candidates. Harris is depending on that blue wall to win the White House, even if she struggles in the Sun Belt. On private calls, some top Harris allies are saying they believe the race will come down to Pennsylvania and Michigan. And then if we go back to Pennsylvania and Michigan, she's losing Pennsylvania and Michigan, ladies and gentlemen. So this is not a good scenario right now in this current moment in time for Ms. Kamala Harris, not at all. So one of the anchors over on MSNBC who hosts a morning show there with her husband, she like had a total meltdown. I'm like, is she crying? Is she crying? I have to show you this. I mean, like I take politics pretty darn seriously. But would I cry over who's going to win? I mean, this is, I guess, another kind of tactic they're trying to use, a scare tactic. Oh my gosh, the country's over. Well, look, he was there for 4 years. He was there as president of the United States. And you know what? We still have a country. Okay, you know, maybe some people didn't like what went down on January 6th, but guess what? There was actually a transition of power. So why are they so flipped out? We're going to get to that because you get to see this total breakdown that she has. But first, quick word from one of our sponsors, including American Heart for Gold. TrishLovesGold.com. I want you to remember that. Trish Loves Gold. Listen, no matter what happens, I think a lot of people are going to be really upset, and that kind of changes the sort of tenor of the conversation. And I expect, by the way, gold is probably going to, again, do well in that environment, do well, because whenever there's uncertainty, whether it be political or economic, gold tends to fare well. It's one of the reasons, well, one of the many reasons gold has been up over the last 20 years. I also look at the fact that we just keep printing money and printing money. And it's crazy, right? You just cannot print that much money. I was reading a stat, actually, that Michael Saylor put out. Michael Saylor, who is like the godfather of Bitcoin. And he was saying that the dollar has depreciated 15% every year. So you've got a depreciating currency. It's depreciating to the tune of 15%. How do you keep up with that? Well, this is one of the ways you can. I mean, there's different ways, you know that, but I'm a big believer in diversification, so I like looking at the different ways. Gold is one of them. Go to TrishLovesGold.com for your chance to get up to $15,000 in free silver with qualifying offers from American Heart for Gold. TrishLovesGold.com. You cannot forget that, right? Or you can text my name immediately, 65532, 65532. So take a look at that, guys, because this is a chance to get up to, as I said, $15,000 and support one of our great sponsors here on the Trish Regan Show. Call 1-844-495-1115. Again, I'm looking at all your comments and reactions here in real time. Hey, Tommy, thank you so much. I want to just give a quick shout out to one of our folks here who's in real time watching the show. Thank you so much, Tommy, for his super chat, as they say. See, I'm like getting the lingo. I'm getting the lingo with the kids, and I was actually able to put up your comment, which is pretty great. Anyway, Tommy, thank you so much for that and for supporting small little creators like me. It's kind of fun here on the other side. Anyway, I want to go to this is unbelievable. This woman who hosts this morning show on NBC with her husband, who's a former Republican. Her dad was, had a big job in government. You guys know who I'm talking about, Mika Brzezinski. Anyway, she takes the stuff so seriously, and not that she shouldn't. I mean, we all take it seriously, but I think the only time I ever cried on air was actually when I was watching all of those people like hanging onto the plane trying to leave Afghanistan. When we were pulling out of Afghanistan and like everybody was just left behind, that was the time that I cried. We lost 13 members of our armed services. That's the kind of thing will get me. But in this case, this particular anchor, one Mika Brzezinski on NBC News, started to cry at the idea that Donald Trump might win again, because she just doesn't understand how these polls keep coming out in favor of Trump, or even tied for Trump. As I was showing you, NBC News' own poll came out in a three-way race, right? Having that third-party candidate a point ahead for Donald Trump, but then tied if you don't have the third-party candidate. Mika cannot understand this. Take a look at this. We're going to watch this together.
So that's the thing, is this morning and also all week we've been talking about the frustration among a lot of Democrats that maybe the message isn't breaking through to key voters. I mean, the polls seem so close every time a new one comes out. Neck and neck. And there's this fear that Donald Trump is poised for victory. Yeah. I think it's fair for Democrats to be incredibly depressed. I think it's fair for them to be discouraged. I think it's fair for them to explore whether Kamala Harris should be doing more. Feel free to do that. These things are all legitimate. I don't know what more she can do, especially given what happened, though, in 2016. Because that was a trauma for anybody who...
A trauma? Okay, wait for it. All right, she's going to go on. It was a trauma. A trauma in 2016.
Of this country, and a trauma that didn't end that day. Obviously, Democrats want to make up for lost time, as Kamala Harris has just days left to truly introduce herself to the American people. At the same time, it could be argued she's doing everything possible. Rallies with tens of thousands of people, talk shows, radio, late night TV, podcasts, town halls are next. You can't claim she's not doing town halls. She wants to debate. She's hitting the battleground states multiple times. She's sending her top surrogates out on the road for a 4-week blitz through swing states, including former Presidents Barack Obama and Bill Clinton, encouraging and winning over Republicans, including Liz Cheney, top military brass, top economic leaders, even members of Trump's own administration, trying to tell Americans that she is for them, the rule of law, the Constitution, that she's not a felon like her opponent, that she's not a con artist like her opponent, that she's not an adjudicated sexual abuser like her opponent, that she's not a person who devalues the truth like her opponent, that she's an honest broker who will do her best at this time of peril for the country. Obviously, Democrats want to leave no stone unturned, and the Democratic National Committee even has this new ad about the danger of the undervote or those who may vote for Jill Stein. Just 3% of the vote. Take a look.
Jill Stein, Green Party candidate for president. So why are Trump's close allies helping her? Stein was key to Trump's 2016 wins in battleground states.
Okay, blah, 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 blah. I mean, you get the point here? Like, she's literally freaking out. I thought she was going to start crying. I really did. And you know what else, guys? What's amazing is that it was all scripted. You know how I know it was scripted? Because, by the way, I've been in this industry 20 years, and I can tell by the timing. So you have the director, as soon as she says, rallies, Kamala's doing rallies, boom, the rally video comes up. And then she says, oh, she's doing all these talk shows, boom, the talk show video comes up. It's just, it's so, it goes on for like 4 whole minutes. So she's kind of freaking out at the idea that Donald Trump would win because she's depressed and she can't be traumatized all over again. I mean, this is nuts. And by the way, this is part of the problem. This is part of the problem. You're getting innocent people at home all worked up for no reason, right? They're going to start crying, lamenting. And you know what is pretty scary? I mean, we had now a third potential. It's kind of conflicted, the information we're getting on that situation out of Coachella. But the idea that Donald Trump is under threat is a real idea, okay? He's gotten intel, specific intel that the FBI has had to provide on what Iran wants to do. We've seen the video of what Iran wants to do. I mean, this is not good stuff. So there are real threats out there. And you'd think that the media, like this gal, would try and lower the temperature, maybe just a little bit. Let's have a more intellectual approach and conversation about this stuff. But she can't. She can't. Because you know what? Their candidate's losing bad. Like really, really badly. And I knew this would happen. You know what? You can't do this to the American people. The American people Democrats deserved to be able to pick their candidate. I was telling you 3 years ago to get rid of Joey. that he was too, unfortunately, and I'm not an ageist. Age is just a number. Trust me. I'm living proof of it, right? I mean, it's just a number. But he's old for his age. And he's declined significantly. And so I said 3 years ago, you can't run this guy. Policies aside, he's not with it enough. And they had an opportunity to try and primary him. They could have gotten their whippersnapper Gavin Newsom or somebody else in there. Somebody who had a fighting chance, but they didn't. They actually stuck with Joe. And then they tried to slide her in there. And I'll tell you can't pull the wool over the eyes of the American public. They're not having it. And they knew exactly what their life would be like if Kamala Harris were to continue. If she just kept everything the same. I mean, frankly, I think she'd make it even worse because I think she's bordering on a full-on communist. We're going to get to that. She's got some choice words to say. By the way, happy Columbus Day. Choice words to say about Columbus Day. And I'm going to play you that sound. But given who she is, what she represents, if nothing else, it's more the same, ladies and gentlemen. She even said she wouldn't do anything differently. So how the heck do you think this candidate's going to win? I'm not surprised at all. I'm surprised it's as tight as it is. I mean, that's why I keep going back to Polymarket, because Polymarket actually looks more realistic. 54 to 45% chance of him winning the Electoral College. That makes more sense to me. The whole idea that it would even be tight, frankly, I think is really, really very much a disadvantage to Kamala Harris, because a lot of Republicans don't actually want to say who they're voting for.